Nobody really seems to agree on what we should be called, and quite frankly, I don't think it's anything new. I don't think what I'm doing is innovative. I don't think it's new. I think that, like Bucker's been doing it for years. I mean, it's the same thing, except that it now has a name because the economy kind of forced it to have a name. Because people who are coming out of college now are no longer coming out as reporters. They're being told you're going to do both jobs. I actually chose the job, and I'm not really sure why, because when I first started doing it, I hated it. I hated everything about it. I started out as a general assignments reporter, and I quit my job in local TV news in 2003, and I moved to Germany to work for the American Forces Network in Europe. When I got there, I would do anything and everything to get out of my shoots. I absolutely hated it. I was dirty. I couldn't shoot stand-ups. I looked like crap by the time I did want to shoot a stand-up. I was tired, and I didn't know how to roll cables, and I still don't know how to roll cables very well. There's a million reasons to hate it. What do you guys hear in your own newsrooms? I mean, it's not the most fun thing for people to do, but why? And I want this to be really interactive, if it's possible. What do people, do you like it? You do it here, right?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of enjoy it, but I'm a little odd like that. But, I mean, I think that it's just the amount of work involved in it is what, I mean, it helps to have two people there. I mean, when you're just by yourself and you're trying to keep track of everything that's going on, I think sometimes it can be overwhelming.
When you get the white balance, you have to make sure your audio is okay. Do you have a character? Did you have a focus for your story? I mean, there's opening, closing shot, all that stuff. What else do people hate about it? Absolutely hate about one-man band.
The bosses don't understand that it takes you twice as long to do a story than it does with a reporter who's got a photographer and then a third person that edits the story.
Yeah, you're completely alone. When you're you're solo.
That's fine. That's not the problem. But they don't. They think I should be able to do as many packages as the Sally Taylors of the world. Because
and the same kinds of packages, right? Why didn't you get this shot this way or whatever? One of my really good friends and mentors, Bev Chapman, who works at I think it was a CBS station, she talked to some of her colleagues, and this is what they all told her about one-man banding.
Okay, so what we're doing is we're talking about, does it look like it's quite
Who's going to do the journalism on this is what I want to know.
Even though this is the age of multitasking, anytime when you're doing two things or more at once, they're all going to suffer.
Do you want the embarrassing part, or?
When you are one-man banding, if something does happen and you have like a 1,500-foot cable run, what do? I mean, you run back and you fix it, and then you run back and it's still broken. It's a pain.
If something went wrong with the camera and you're in the middle of the interview, you had to stop it, you had to, there were chances that sometimes you didn't record it all or that the white balance was off, and so you didn't know. And it actually happened to me when I was interviewing, then she was running for Senate, Claire McCaskill, and I had to stop in the middle of the interview, and she actually had to walk away and move on because I didn't get the interview with her.
The most difficult thing about one-man banding for me is doing one-man banding in a tense situation, a spot news situation where people are emotional. I found that it's much easier if you tag team on people, and there have been a lot of times when the reporter will be trying to talk somebody into doing an interview, and the photographer walks up and says, look, this is no big deal. I'm just going to shoot you from here up. It'll be a quick question, and the person will, by being tag teamed, say, oh, okay, fine, I'll go ahead and have an interview with you.
I was doing a story, and I was interviewing a U.S. Marshal at the time, and he kept looking directly into the camera, which is something else I'm sure a lot of people face with this problem. And so I just, locked the camera down on the tripod, and then took a few steps off to the left, and was trying to get him to kind of angle towards me, and we started talking, and didn't even notice one of the legs was slipping the entire time for about 20 seconds. And the marshal literally jumped out in front to catch the camera before it hit the ground, and was on the ground face down. And I was just standing there looking at him going, yeah, I meant to do that.
Does that stuff sound familiar? I mean, that is the way most people view one-man banding. What I hope to do today is prove that it can be a lot of fun, and it can be just as effective as a team as far as storytelling goes. My gear bag, everything, and I was walking through the gate, and he said, excuse me, Michelle, do you want to tell my story? I need to see your ID. And I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding. You just called me by name. So I get out my ID, and this guy's talking. He said, really, you need to tell my story. And I'm going, Jesus, would you shut up? I've got to go. I got to go shoot this other thing. And so I go and I shoot my other story, and I come back out, and he's still standing there, and he goes, Michelle, you want to do my story? Finally, I'm like, well, shut up. So I stop, and thank God I listened to him, because the truth is, the reason I do what I do is because of the man you're about to meet. I can't walk by somebody like this and not wonder what his story is.
Music is not his career. It is not his hobby. Yet he's an eager bugler who sees something different in his horn. His real name is Hartmut Hauser.
I'm a German.
But he goes by Bob.
Yeah, Bob the Bugler.
Bob the Bugler is a one-man band doing all of this for a 1-minute song that he's practiced most of his life.
I was about 5 years old when I grabbed my father's hunting horn and tried to get some notes out of it. Well, let's get dressed. How many more minutes we got?
Most musicians get over getting nervous, but Bob is about to go. Where exactly 5,329 people are waiting. He plays 24 notes. A tune both eloquent and haunting.
American soldiers came from America to free Europe. And so many soldiers died to set us free.
Nobody asked Bob to be here. Nobody paid his way from Germany to Belgium.
We owe those guys so many.
The final echo leads a soldier's soul to the grave. The first moment, a musician so composed.
I would like to thank him for his service.
Isn't.
And we would rest. Thank you for your service.
Michelle Michael, Liège, Belgium.
Yeah.
Bob the Bugler to me is what I call every day a character. And my entire career, I've been hiding behind good characters. Because if you find a character for a story, essentially your job is null and void. They don't need you because your character should tell your entire story for you. By the way, they are the easiest stories, in my opinion, for a one-man band to do. And so when I talk about getting natural sound, I don't know how other one-man bands do it because I'm always by myself and I don't get to watch anybody else. But I work with 2 wireless microphones at all times on my camera, and I move them around constantly. When I say shoot and move, I literally will get one shot here, I will pick everything up to include the microphone, go over here, and put it down here while you're tying your shoe. It's a lot of work, and it takes a lot of time, and the story I'm getting ready to show you isn't my favorite story that I've ever done, but I'm showing it to you because I want you to understand what it means to capture natural sound as a one-man band. It took me a very long time, well, an hour and a half, 2 hours, which is a pretty long time to shoot a news story. But what I really like about this particular piece is the natural sound and the lengths I went to get some of it. See if you can listen just for the sound.
Knock them down, now, come on.
When Bill Cooney left Texas and moved to Germany,
Good evening, David calling BFE Boat Insurance. Bill, how can I help you?
he didn't want to be tied down with work. So when he ended up here,
When I got this job, I had no idea what I'd be doing.
you could no doubt hear a pin drop
Size 8,
when he found out this
get all the way in there, you know.
was his new sweat equity.
Sometimes they're fresh off the feet and they're nice and warm and juicy.
For years, Bill kept inmates in line at the sheriff's department,
Yeah.
but this deserves a different kind of badge.
You know what I mean? You gotta grab a hold of them.
Sweat is nothing more than salt in water, which has no real smell of its own, so the smell actually comes from bacteria on our skin.
Well, think about it, they stinky feet.
After a while, you don't even notice it anymore.
You're a little sweaty from bowling, but you know.
That should smell bad. That's all I know.
I don't think anybody thinks about what you do to the shoes once they turn them in, you know. Oh, man.
This is what you call a patriotic sacrifice.
I put another pair of shoes. They're also red, white, and blue, just like my hat.
And even though you might not stand in line for his job,
I wouldn't want it.
if you go bowling, you just might find out what it's like to walk in a cowboy's shoes.
Let them air for a little while, and then we can hand them back out.
Michelle Michael.
It's all in the shoes, baby.
Mannheim, Germany.
Somebody has to do it.
So, not necessarily the best story that I've ever put together, but you heard all the different audio sounds that I captured. Everything that I did, I moved that microphone to the extent that I waited for a really good bowler and put it like right on the edge. I'm like, please don't hit it. I can't afford to buy it. I put it inside the shoes. I put it on people's shoe as they were bowling. I mean, that microphone has been everywhere. Mike the dog, as they say. And I think that's really crucial for a one-man band, because if you have a reporter, you know, the reality is they can stand there with a wireless mic and hold it for you. Now, I've seen a lot of lazy reporters that also won't even budge to do that. But when you're by yourself, it takes a little bit more work, but I think it pays off. The other thing that I think sets a one-man band apart is stand-ups. I think that they're not done very often by one-man bands, quite frankly, because they take a little extra time, and we're always under the gun. We're always trying to get this story done so we can meet this deadline so we can work on the next one. But I think they really set a one-man band apart. And to me, there's no greater compliment than when I come back. And I worked in a network, so we had stations all over Europe. And when somebody would come from one of the other stations, like Belgium, to our station in Germany, I would hear them in the news director's office, who I was really good friends with. And they would say, you know, the thing that's total bullshit is that Michelle, right, she gets a photographer to shoot her stand-ups, and we all have to work alone. I want to know who shoots hers, because while I'm here, I'd like to get one done. And he would just smile, and he would say, well, she doesn't by herself. And they're like, she does not. Come on, you know she doesn't. Well, I do. And I just want to show you a small sample of some of the stand-ups I've done to give you an idea of how I do them on my own.
This sandwich costs €3. At the 2005 exchange rate, you get the whole thing. Today, your dollar only buys you this much. You lose about 1/7 of your sandwich. Now, it might not seem like much, but say you buy one of these every day for an entire week. You're out. A whole sandwich. Here's the problem. For every 10 high schoolers who want to join the Army, only 2 are actually qualified. When the glint of a grubby one on the sidewalk catches our eye, what do? Studies show 4 out of 5 of us pick it up. A new sob would cost Eric about $40,000. Kids are turning to these things: drinking, smoking, and other risky behaviors to fill the void. Here at Mannheim Elementary School, there are 16 sets of twins and 2 sets of triplets. And at times it's hard to tell them apart.
So those are all stand-ups that I shot entirely by myself. Now, I mean, we've all been in news, most of us anyways. Is there anybody that's not? Does anybody not have the background? Okay. So we all know the importance of a stand-up. Transition, show and tell. Sometimes if you don't have video, it's good in place of, you know, something as opposed to like a graphic, for example, which is what I did in the next story. It was an assignment, but I worked really hard not to make it one. I wanted to make it a story as best as I could. And quite frankly, it's a story that's probably better suited for a newspaper, which is exactly where my assignments desk got it from, and they told me to go do the story, and this is what I came up with to make it fun that day.
I really don't see buying a new car.
He's like thousands of recession-weary, penny-pinching do-it-yourselfers repairing his old car instead of buying a new one.
That's a huge savings just to keep it going and going.
The bad economy is a tune-up for the auto parts business.
It's kind of like the trend that people had with SUVs, where they're buying them all the time. It's dead now, of course, since gas prices are so high and the economy is going down the tubes, so people adapt.
Scrap yards
$20.
are one of the few places seeing a growth during the recession.
this is money. We don't consider none of it junk.
This is no longer called a junkyard because in a bad economy, most people simply don't call it junk. And here's why. A new Saab would cost Eric about $40,000. Instead, he found the parts for $2,500. He spent $250 to rent a garage. That means he saved more than $37,000 just by holding on to his 10-year-old car.
You can get a spring, anything for your motor, anything for your transmission.
Brian Nivens helps run this scrapyard. He's not worried about unemployment.
Business has increased maybe between 25 and 50%.
People need his help now more than ever.
You know, during the economic crisis, it falls outside on the economy, costs quite a bit.
It's not a glamorous business.
There's an alternative problem with
The prize at the end of the day is in your wallet.
all of the days work.
Or if you're Mike Eels, it's in the trunk of your car next to your running shoes.
Somewhere in this whole mess of car parts.
Perhaps motivation to see just how far his old ride will take him. Michelle Michael, Mannheim, Germany.
Again, not my best story, not the best storytelling, but what would it have been without, what'd you think of the stand-up, actually? Sequence stand-up. Hard to do as a one-man band?
It'd be a little, I mean, with all the different shots you use and angles, I mean, you'd have to set up each one of those and then, you know, go and talk, and sometimes maybe it'd be a couple takes probably, so.
How long do you think it would take to shoot a sequenced stand-up like that, or like the sandwich, or like the triplets?
Probably at least 15 minutes, not to half an hour.
Okay. I don't know what possessed me to do this, but I'm really glad I did it, because this will be the second time that I've shown it. Do you guys want to watch this? I mean, nobody's like starving, right? Okay, I kept all the raw footage from this particular stand-up. It took me exactly 9.5 minutes to shoot the stand-up. You'll watch less than that. I won't make you watch the whole 9, because when I've shot it 2 or 3 times because of a third take, because first and second ones were really, really bad, I've taken the liberty of speeding that up for you guys so you don't have to sit through it. But here's the actual raw footage of that stand-up.
As a one-man band, I shoot my own stand-ups. It's not that hard, really. It just takes a little extra time and another me. That's the light stand. It's what I use to make sure I'm in focus and framed just right. Then I mark the spot, move it out of my shot, and it's time for take 1. Three, 2, 1. This is no longer a junkyard because in a bad economy, most people don't call it junk, and here's why. This is where it can become time-consuming. Right now, I'm on my way back to my camera to check the shot and the audio. I forgot. I need this for my sequence. One-man bands talk to themselves a lot. Right now, I'm on my way back to shoot the beginning of my stand-up again because I forgot my prop. That's me picking up crisp audio of shaking the shoe polish bottle. Now I have to walk all the way back again to check the audio in the shot. Obviously, I didn't like it because I moved the camera and refocused and reframed. Now I'm on my way back for take 3 in 3, 2, 1. This is no longer called a junkyard because in a bad economy, most people simply don't call it junk, and here's why. Okay, this is where most people would want to give up, but don't. It's critical that you check your shot. You're at it alone, so make sure you cannot tell you're a one-man band out there. Now I'm going to try to get a close-up shot of this bottle. I set it on the car so that I would be able to make sure it's in focus. Then I pick it up and shake it, but since I'm not looking through the viewfinder, I can't see that it's obviously not quite right, so I keep doing it. And when I finally stop, I go check what I recorded, I find it's not good, and I try again. If only there were 2 of me, but there's not. And again, I don't know it yet, but it's not good a second time until I go and check the shot. And I realize I better tighten it up and try yet again. Finally, I can live with it. So I'm going to shoot the 3rd part of my sequenced stand-up. Surely this looks weird to the average guy. That's me trying to get audio of the cat. There's so much to think about. Sound, white balance, framing. I've actually scribbled some notes down so that I would remember whatever the point of all of this is. We're on deadline, by the way. Now on to the next part. A new saw would cost Eric about $40,000. I record, and oops, you can't see my face. I have to go all the way back to the camera, check the shot, and realize again that I failed. Really, I feel like giving up at this point. I could just skip my stand-up. Do you notice I had to clean the shoe polish off the window too? A new saw would cost Eric about $40,000. I'm checking it. It's good. I frame up the next shot. I pray the next one works. I try it. Instead, he found the parts for $2,500. I set up the next one and I keep going. That shoe polish on the ground, that's where my light stand was. And that'll ensure I'm still in focus. What about my hair? Yeesh, it's hot. I'm starting to sweat. So many things to hate about one-man banding. But keep going, the clock is ticking. $2,500. He spent about $2,500. He spent $250 to rent a garage. Record the next part. Go check it. What a waste. My head is not in the shot. Where is my cameraman? He rented the garage for $250. That means he saved. He rented the garage for about $250. That means he saved more than $37,000 by holding on to his 10-year-old car. I have to walk all the way back, check the shot. I realize I failed. I reframe it or reposition myself. Obviously, I irised up. Move that light stand. By now, I feel like throwing it. Try again. He rented the garage for about $250. That means he saved more than $37,000 just by holding on to his 10-year-old car. Check it again. I could quit here, but I'm really energetic today, so I'm going to get some more tight shots. Obviously, I've cleaned some shoe polish off the windows so I can go ahead and get in tight and shoot. And here we go. See me pulling out my mic? I'm going to work on audio now. This is how I do it. Then I go back, I listen, it's okay, I like it, and I pray I didn't leave out any details.
So what do you guys think?
Very nice.
But it's feasible, right? I mean, you can do it now. Do you use a light stand? I wondered how you focused on yourself, but I didn't want to give it away.
No.
How do you do it?
I generally don't do the stand-ups, myself, because we're doing 2 stories, so it's kind of time-wise, it's a little difficult. Yeah, Booker does it.
Booker, where are you?
I'm sorry, I just walked.
Do you do stand-ups? How do you make sure you're in?
Well, with the P2s we're using, you can turn the viewfinder around. You get the mirror reflection.
Oh, right,
so
right,
it's
right.
The best. It's bailed me out.
I didn't have that camera on that. I had it was an old Ikegami, which.
Well, yeah, the worst is coming back and then you're off. And
it's really old.
Drives you crazy.
Yeah, well, I was just showing. I don't know if you were in here, but I showed the video of. I use a light stand. It's a really old one, by the way. It's mine. I dug it out of the dumpster once when they were throwing stuff away and.